Magicians podcast, the official podcast for the I.B.M. This is your host, Jason Michaels, and I am joined by my co-hosts. Give it up one more time for Scott Cantrell and Ben Young. Hello, fellas.
Woo!
I like the cheering. That's great.
Ben, does that pack
Someone's got to
to
cheer for us. Yeah,
You're just getting in the mood or in the flow. Or
yeah. I'm a fidgeter. I don't know if anyone else can relate.
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah. I hear you. So, how's everybody doing? What has been happening? We did our first episode a couple of weeks ago. This is episode number 2.
Yeah, the reviews of the first episode have been, I just am blown away. Stellar and amazing reviews of the first episode. I thought, and the level of engagement that we've gotten. I mean, there were a few, things that we had to delete or, but otherwise it's, yeah. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who reviewed the episode, and we want to keep throwing fuel on the fire.
And what Scott did not tell you in the first podcast episode is that he has a background in improvisation. So you never know where he's just going to take off talking about. It could be anywhere at any moment. He's one of those yes and guys.
All right, name an occupation. Any occupation. Name your favorite
Magician.
Place. Oh, magician. Okay, yeah.
So in the last podcast, we talked about I don't want to call it controversial, but it was an interesting discussion talking about your stage deportment based on an article in the Linking Ring magazine, November 2024, and we talked about being clean versus saying things that might be a little bit subversive or double meaning, or maybe just flat out, quote unquote, dirty. I saw something interesting happen. I was thinking about this. I was at House of Cards a couple of months ago, and Lucy Darling was there, and it was a lunch buyout, which is kind of an odd thing for House of Cards, but it was a lunch buyout, and it was this company who was there, and Lucy Darling is fantastic, so charismatic on stage, funny.
One of my favorites.
Oh, just fantastic. And she was doing her show, and she was probably 5, 6, 7 minutes in when all of a sudden she does this joke, and the joke is, it's one of those double meaning jokes. It wasn't the type of thing where you'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. No, that's not. It was one of those that if you get the joke, it's an inside joke for you. And it was, as far as inside joke or double meaning, it had a little bit of an edge there. And I saw something I haven't seen before. I saw the woman who was like in charge of human resources goes, I'm sorry, I have to stop the show. She was in the back of the audience. She goes, we have to stop. And I was standing next to Joey, who's the GM and the entertainment director. I looked at Joey, and Joey looks at me, and we're like, "What the heck?" And
I haven't heard this story, so I'm reacting in real time. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, for all of our listeners, Jason doesn't really tell us what we're going to do ahead of time. We don't get an outline. We're just here.
Yeah, it's just like see what happens. But anyway,
so both of us are on the edge of our seat.
Yeah.
So she goes, "I'm sorry, I have to stop the show. We have to." And then Lucy could see this coming. And she goes, no problem. I'll keep it clean, totally clean. That's never been a problem. And the lady goes, okay, thank you so much. And so she proceeds to, do the rest of her, 20 more minutes, her 30-minute set. And it's totally clean. No double entendres, nothing that's even close to sketchy. And she crushes the place. And, the best part, the funniest part, was that about 7 minutes later, she's talking, and she has this joke, and she's telling this joke, and she says whatever she says, and then she does a callback and goes, and she says, except for the recent unpleasantness that we just had, and it brought the place to their knees. It was hysterical, and I was like, to watch a top performer be able to take a situation like that and really thrive with it. That's when you know that somebody is on their absolute A game. That's elite, in my opinion. To not get thrown off your game and just kind of suffer through the rest of the show, but to kill it still. It was so great.
Yeah.
But it does make
Wait,
you wonder if you say, hey, if you say something questionable or say something dirty in front of the wrong crowd, who knows what your audience is going to do?
No, that's true.
yeah,
I mean, we've probably all had, we won't go down the rabbit hole here, but I think anybody who's performed for any for any number of audiences at some point, either you've said something you shouldn't have, or the timing, you said something the wrong time, or you've gotten a reaction that you did not expect. Even if you were thoughtful with what you were going to say and you were thoughtful about who your audience is, you've gotten responses that you weren't expecting, and maybe they weren't or weren't called for, but that's irrelevant. You've gotten a response you didn't know how to deal with in real time, and I think you're right, Jason. It's the elite top performers who know how to who can take that, assimilate it, because it would have been very easy for Carissa, Lucy, to it would have been very easy for a performer, I should say that, for a performer to become defensive in that moment,
Oh yeah.
right? Or to like
yeah,
you said, just suffer through the show. But she reacted incredibly quickly and professionally, and then used it to her own advantage. Yeah, that is an elite top performer, and that's the type of skill that can only come through massive experience.
Yeah.
yeah. Talk about listening to your audience, like
Right.
literally, when someone stands up and says you have to stop, and you go, well, okay, hold on, and we all know that like audiences love it when they experience something that um is only happening in that show, even if they maybe think it's something that only happens in that show, but it's something that you replicate often. But that that level of someone saying we can't do this, and her saying okay, we'll change it, and like her changing the show essentially on the spot, where then all of a sudden like everyone in the audience knows that they're getting a custom version of the show just for them. That's really powerful, right? I mean, that really goes a long way, and I think that probably helped contribute to like why she got such a big reaction, is they're going, oh my gosh, she even adapted it for us on the fly. Like that's huge.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Joey and I looked at each other and we were both like, what exactly was the problem? Neither one of us could figure out why this one was stopping the show. It wasn't one of those obvious situations. It was just kind of like, what is the deal? She didn't do anything wrong. But to take to take the story further, I was talking to her after the show and she said, "Oh, I have two versions of my show. I have the show that I can
Mm,
do for for adult audiences, and I have the show that I can do when there are,
Anybody. Yeah.
kids and
Yeah.
families and stuff you know. So she's thought about how to make sure she has two versions of her show that kill. Hmm.
There you
that's
go.
great.
Yep. All right. Today we're doing our very first podcast interview, and we're interviewing somebody that all three of us know. This person has this person is. I tell you what. Let's just bring him in here, and then we'll talk about him so that
Yeah, let's talk about him in front of it.
so that he can
Yeah.
defend himself.
Yeah,
Ladies and
that's good.
gentlemen, I am now admitting into the podcast. I am admitting our friend. Uh, okay, here he is, our friend Tom Vorjohan. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the I.B.M. Podcast episode number 2. How are you?
Hello, Sir Jason Michaels. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, buddy. Uh, I was about to do like a full introduction, and then I was like, no, 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 no. Let's bring Tom in so that he can hear us talk about him,
Oh,
so that
great.
we could.
Let me go to I'll be right back.
So, so one of the reasons I wanted to talk to Tom Vorjohan is because Tom has been integral and very involved in the world of magic for a very long time, a massive influence on the International Brotherhood of Magicians. Over the years, has participated in more programs than I probably even know about. Certainly more than I can count. Tom is a personal friend to all three of us because of his time spent at Ring 58, and both Scott and Ben come from East Tennessee, and then I know Tom because I'm involved because I'm from Tennessee as well. Uh, Tom, you've put me on stage multiple times. You've introduced Ben and I, and Ben, because of your introduction, Ben has traveled around the world with me, going on military bases. Scott, you have a history with Scott. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I didn't know this was my life. I had no idea.
Actually, Tom, this is an intervention, and I
Yeah.
just want to say we love you very much.
I
Yeah.
think that's good. We could use one about now. Well, it's good to see you guys.
It's
Well,
always good to see you, man.
You too,
Yeah.
man.
we're glad to have you. And I wanted to have you on the podcast at the very beginning. I want to explore a couple of different topics with you. But let's hit the most topical one first, and that is that the Winter Carnival of Magic is coming up at the
6
in
weeks.
early March, and this is the 50th anniversary of the Winter Carnival of Magic. The Winter Carnival of Magic is put on by Ring. It's 58, right? That's the number.
Yep.
I forget
Yep.
stuff like this.
Knoxville's Club.
So the Knoxville Ring of the International Brotherhood Magicians put this on, has been putting it on for 50 years, and you're claiming that this is the last one. What the heck, Tom?
Well, we are having the same problem that many of the, as I call it, shotgun approach conventions are having. The I.B.M, the SAM, TAOM, Daytona, us, right off the top of my head, are all suffering for the same thing. And that is, there's so much magic out there that's now accessible. So if you want to learn mentalism, you don't need to go to a convention where I hire one mentalist and one children's performer and a dove worker and an illusionist and 2 card guys. You can just go get a master class in mentalism from your favorite mentalist for much cheaper than it costs to take time out to go to a convention. We've been tracking it. My background is an engineer. We track it a lot. And so we've been slowly going down since before COVID. And once
You're talking about your numbers are down.
yeah, well, I mean, we get about 50% of the attendees, the paid attendees are spouses, which we still think is great. And we offer a spouse rate that's actually less than half the magician rate. But anyway, so 50% are spouses, but we track magicians particularly because, that's how we attract vendors and everything else. And it's just been slowly trickling off. It's not like it's a huge drop, but we got below 200 magicians now at least 2 years in a row. And we all sat back and went, and then the icing on the cake was the fact that the theater won't let us renew for 2026. Dolly's starting to open early, Dollywood, and as such, they want to be able to have shows. And so that's probably the master plan, if not next year, the year after, but I couldn't get them to commit to doing the theater. We are always working 2 years in advance with the theater, and I couldn't get them to commit in 24 for 26. So that's,
And just in case anybody is unfamiliar with the Winter Carnival of Magic, this convention is a regional convention that is held in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, every year at the Country Tonight Theater.
correct, which is one of the main theaters, and we just rent it out. And when I say we rent it out, we rent out the sound, we rent out the light, we rent out the technicians to run the sound and the light, we rent out the box office, we rent out their phone numbers so we don't have to take registrations. It all goes straight through them. Yes, it costs money, but boy, has it been a lifesaver. Mike Stratman, when they were we used to be in Gatlinburg when it first formed, first in the Armada for I think the first year or two, and then after that it went straight over to the convention center. Well, when the convention center decided they wanted to get big, they redid the portion where we held the meeting and held the convention, and that was all she wrote. So Mike went looking and found this theater, and it's served us well for 15, 16 years now.
It's a great venue. I mean,
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the dealer's room is in the lobby. All the events take place there, and there's, 4 hotels within walking distance. The Ramada's right next door, but there's a hotel across the street and 2 more catty corner across the street. So you can't.
And
I
I love this.
mean, we originally started because Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge was dead in the winter, and so we went, and the Ring 58 had just hosted the SCAM 2 years prior, and they went, hey, we like this. This is fun. And so kind of pretty much as other people are doing nowadays, we can't find fault in it. They go, well, we should do a convention too. So, same thing we did
Yep.
50 years ago.
Yep.
So,
And I like to think of this as, I think what's cool about this convention is that it seems like everybody knows each other. I mean, you get so many people from Tennessee and Atlanta and Georgia, and then South Carolina, North Carolina, Kentucky. I know people come in from Ohio. It's a definitely a regional convention, and it seems like everybody. I love this. I call it my hometown convention because it's where you go to just hang out with the people that
I mean,
the magic community is relatively tight-knit group, and that you may not see these people a ton, but you can guarantee you'll see them at least once every year at the Winter Carnival.
well, and sadly, that's pretty much what's causing the downfall is the older folks who are slowly passing away. And
Yeah.
when they go, there's not younger people to pick up the pace. You have 2 of the youngest bucks on the podcast with me.
Right.
They're
True.
they're swiftly approaching 40 if they're not there already. So
Look at Ben's face. Ben's face is not, he's not happy about that comment, Tom. He does not like being told that he's
Ben hasn't
offended.
shaven yet, nor has he gone through puberty. So we're good. We're good. He can fake it for a few more years.
But-
Thank you,
but
Tom. Thanks for
Yeah.
redeeming yourself.
I love you, buddy.
So
Me
you're
too.
so you're blowing it out though. Like you're really
Oh yeah, this
this
convention's
50th
amazing.
anniversary. You
Well,
just said, all right.
I'm proud of every year, but this year I pulled it up. My buddy Jeff Williams, who lives down here, Michael Trix, who's down in.
Lives down where, Tom? Because you're not in Knoxville.
I'm sorry, I'm in St. Pete now. COVID hit. I went, should I shelter in place in the mountains or the beach? Mountains or the beach? And I decided the beach because they couldn't close the beach. They tried, but they can't close the beach. And so anyhow, Dan Sperry. Then I got 3 folks coming from overseas: John Archer and John Allen from the UK, R. Paul Wilson from Scotland.
Ooh.
Steve Beam, who's a regular to our convention, is coming and doing the close-up. Stephen Bergazzi is going to just host his little an evening with Stephen Bergazzi and friends, which was our #1 rated thing last year. I told him, I go, well, you know what this means? He goes, yeah, I'll be back. So Chris Capehart's coming down. David Da Vinci's driving in from the Iowa. I'm like, oh my Lord.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah, it's costing more to drive him in than it is to pay him. But anyway, thankfully.
Right. I've been watching David Da Vinci on online for years, and he looks like he has a really exciting show. I haven't seen his show, but it looks like
really?
it looks like it's just so exciting. I mean, this guy's like a daredevil jumping out of airplanes and stuff like that. And I'm guessing that he brings that same level of intensity to his show. You're the one who hired him. Have you seen his show?
The I.B.M convention, I guess we were in Scottsdale, I think, when Jessica Jane was there, because he convinced Jessica Jane to go skydiving with him. So she'd never been skydiving before. So off she went. It was very funny. And that's how I got to talking to him. But anyway, Jeff Hobson and Dan Sperry are coming in just for Thursday night. And so we're literally going to have 4 shows: one Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and a close-up show on during the day.
Dude, that is packed. I mean, if somebody loves magic, they'd be crazy not to attend this.
6 lectures, one big blowout contest to finish the thing.
Tell me about that. What does that mean? What does that mean? Big blowout contest. What is that? Tell me about it.
Well, one of the things that we have found and that I've been personally struggling with, and if any magicians are out there, I've heard it described. Mr. Electric has said it. a 7-minute contest act used to be able to feed your family and take you around the world as a professional entertainer. Not anymore. And so we have lost the ability to have strong contest acts that are made strictly to be a contest act. The Lance Burtons of the world, there is nobody who's doing that now. Guys will take pieces of their act and do them in the contest, which is fine. It's just not a stage contest like we've seen. You're seeing it at the I.B.M, the SAM are one of the only ones still doing contests.
Yeah.
We're one of the only regional conventions that do it. Daytona doesn't do it. Magi Fest that's starting this week doesn't do it. It's just a very awkward position to be in. People still do some close up, but the stage wise, so we're doing one combined. So we're not wanting any way to walk out there with a zigzag or an illusion like that. So we're calling it sort of a parlor-esque type of contest, and it will be the last one. So you would have some great bragging rights if you won the last contest.
Your act was so good you closed down the Winter
Close down the
Carnival of
Winter
Magic.
Carnival. But hey, so nobody gets mad, I got to read these other ones. Ken Scott, Don Bursell, Matt Stanley, Tiffany Savage, which is actually Tiffany Allen,
Mhm.
Eric Tate said, hey, use me. I want to be there. I want to be there for the last one, whatever you want.
Golly, man.
So yeah, it's we have about 50% more entertainers than we normally have, but hey, it's the last one. So
You just said we're going to blow the budget out, is what you said.
well, that was the original thought, but we had a little bit of a price increase, and it appears we're going to have about 100 people more than normal, so we could still have some money left.
So what does that tell you? Huh,
That
that's
tells you to
interesting.
do another one and make it the last one.
We can't. I'm not gonna pull an Abbott. I'm not pulling an Abbott. I'm not doing it.
This
God
is
bless
No,
the
it's a Rolling Stones.
Everyone's
You
the
keep
last
doing
one
your
on
farewell
Saturday.
tour.
Yeah, the farewell tour. Just keep
Yeah, we should have a
exactly.
tour.
Over and over and over.
Yeah. Sort of like Michael Close. This is my farewell lecture. This is my farewell lecture tour. I think Aldo did that too.
Mhm.
And we just had Michael Amar lecture for Ring 175 down here in Tampa, and he said, this is the last time I'm going out. And I just snickered under my breath. I go, yeah, it's 74, you'll change your mind.
That's yeah, absolutely. So I have watched you go from place to place and grow magic clubs. You were one of the. I watched you create the life member program for the I.B.M. and like single-handedly, like I've watched you like and marveled at your ability to just get people interested in. I don't know if it's that you're getting them interested in magic or that you're finding a way to sell them or convince them that this is in their best interest, but you were a great ambassador for magic.
Should
How
I
were
change
you?
my last name to Sawyer?
So what?
Tom Sawyer. Paint my
Oh,
fence.
Oh yeah.
okay. Dude, now, hey, Ben, there's your old reference.
There's
You
a
were
deep cut.
joking. You were giving me a hard
Yeah.
time about an old reference earlier. That's an old reference.
Yeah, but I got this one. What does that tell you?
Jason, I appreciate that. That's a heck of a compliment. That's why I stepped on it so it didn't tear up. But I started doing magic in Cincinnati and found the Cincinnati Counts of Conjuring, which was a teenage group that Bill Brewy helped. And they opened the door. So Counts paid probably $5 or $10 back in the 80s.
Hold on, what?
Yeah. And so, but the
Paid?
SAM and the I.B.M, which both had a ring and an assembly in Cincinnati, allowed us to go to their lectures, allowed us to go to their picnic, allowed us to go to their auction. And so I was bitten by the magic bud hard. Bill Pryor was my first mentor. He owned Bill's Magic Corner in 3 cases in the corner of a drugstore that was about 4 miles from my house. And so he was open on Thursday evening, Wednesday evening, and Saturday afternoon. And I was there at least twice during that week, every week. And so I just sat there and watched and everything else. So, I find it hard to believe that magicians don't want to see magic, don't want to do magic, don't want to be part of magic because, well, I do. And so I just make that assumption all the time. You know, if you ever want to offend me, be a magician in a town where I'm at and don't participate with the club. I just don't get that.
Hmm.
You know, a club is only as strong as the members that are there. You know, and if everybody comes tomorrow to watch, then we're all going to sit around and just look at each other because nobody's going to do any magic. You know,
Yeah.
but so far that's never happened. But yeah, so when I got to Evansville, which is Ring 56, that's the first time I tripled membership there before I left in 6 years.
Is
And
there something specific that you attribute that to?
we changed a lot of things. You figure out what people didn't like. We took surveys, and you know, we were meeting at a church after church on a Sunday, and they were doing, because it was after church on a Sunday, they were doing a covered dish. So everybody had to bring a covered dish.
Hmm.
Well, I
You
was
had to
20.
wait, you had to bring food to go to the Magic Club?
Yep, I was 20 something at the time. I didn't cook, nor did I want to bring a covered dish. Paul Emick was already bringing a bag of potato chips to every meeting, so that was covered. God bless his soul. I miss him. But
Paul was one
but
of the
that's where I
best,
met
man.
all those guys. Bob Brizendine, Daniel Herron. It just, you know, it was a great group. But there was a lot of young people that wanted to be active and do stuff. And we just started doing some activities. We did some public shows, which can be good and bad. I haven't ventured into that again since in the last 35 years since then. But that's also when I started talking to Phil Wilmarth. Had been editor in my newspaper when I was in high school, well, for at least 2 years, three, and did the yearbook and everything. And I was very concerned because Phil didn't have a backup. There was nobody ever listed as a backup to take over the linking ring. So we got to talking, and I started writing a column that Phil had started. He'd done two of them, and he wrote something, and so I wrote him something in return because he wrote Houdini's 25 Ways to Kill a Club. So I wrote him back, and I think I said, here's 26 ways to grow a club. No, nothing ill-willed towards Houdini. And so that's how that took off. And so Phil and I got to be really good friends and stuff. And he said, well, if you want to edit this magazine, he goes, you need to start understanding the organization. So volunteer for something. I go, what should I volunteer for? He goes, well, you like writing about the rings. He goes, why don't you go for the TVP committee? So I worked with Dave Snetzinger for a couple of years, and then I took over the TVP committee. And it's a great viable group of people that we do not utilize properly. It's hard because they're
And the TVPs are the territorial vice presidents.
right. So if there's a problem, so for instance, once we had a problem in New York, and I'll leave it very generic, the TVPs are who had to get involved before. In the case of New York, it got big enough that we ended up having to send an officer up to help deal with the problem, and figuring out what the whole issue was. But we did. And so it's good that you have TVPs, or I believe the SAM calls them regional vice presidents, RVPs. And so they have a huge territory. So it's like the Midwest and the Southwest and the Eastern Seaboard. So there's no way those folks are getting around all the rings. But yeah, so that gave me a really great overview of what's going on and where the majority of the rings are and what makes those rings tick. And so I just started studying, you know, ring one is a fantastic ring. Ring 129 is a great ring. And your Ohio rings are fantastic. I mean, there's like 13 rings in Ohio the last time I counted. Because that's where the organization started. So every 50 miles, there's a ring. So yeah, so I did that. Then I got asked by David Sandy to chair the youth committee. I said, I'll do it as long as you don't make me in charge of attrition. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, I can't compete with cars and puberty. I said, there's no way. Once a young man turns old enough to drive and date, there's a good chance the cards are going to stay on the shelf. And so we had fun. We got some good stuff going there. Some of it's still around. I work with Aubrey Fines so that we would have youth activities and stuff and everything. And then I kind of went dormant about the time Wilmarth became president. And then Oscar called me, I don't know how long ago, and then said, we'd like you back on the board. And we were about to do away with lifetime members. And Sean Farquhar had an idea of doing a tier system. So it wasn't just one chunk of money. It would be different at different ages because you're not going to live as long if you're 65 and become a life member as it would be if you're 25. So I ran over 100 different annuity calculations so the I.B.M wouldn't go broke, and proposed it, and they did it, and we sold more life members and have been sold since somewhere in the 90s combined.
Oh yeah, that I mean, I know that program really took off under your leadership, and I've had conversations with you about this in the past, and your point when you're talking to people and you're just saying, you point out everything that you get as a life member, and then when you point it out to people and you make it clear to them, they go, oh yeah, it's kind of crazy for me to not be a life
Like
member.
the two people you have on the podcast with us, they're silly. It's not like they're never going to leave Magic. And so,
yeah, people who get into Magic don't leave Magic. They may take a break, but they're never gone for good.
right. So, I mean, if you're going to support the organization, why wouldn't you? Yes, it's a lot of money, but if you get a tax return you don't know what to do with, and you have a choice between buying a new microwave or becoming a life member or a new TV. Although I did just find out that there's a 98-inch television at Costco for only $1,600. So now the decision gets tougher.
Do I need that 98-inch
television,
or do I need my lifetime membership? Exactly.
There you go. But anyway, it's all about choices. But yeah, I mean, that was good. I mean, that's like Ken Scott came to me when I was on the convention committee, and he said, hey, I'd like to do like I do at the Atlanta Harvest. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I want to have VIPs. And I said, okay, well, I mean, you mean real VIPs, or you just want to sell the front row like you do? And he goes, no, whatever you come up with. He goes, put it together. Come back to me tomorrow. So the next day I came back to him with 14 different things to do. And he goes, what are you going to sell that for? He goes, I was thinking about selling the front row for $100. I said, $1,500. He goes, nobody's going to take that. I go, 3% will.
Yeah.
He goes, what? I go, any bell-shaped curve has 3% outliers. And I said, we'll market to those 3%. And so out of a convention of 500 people, 15 will do it. So guess how many I had that first year?
I don't know how many.
15.
Did you really? Wow. You called it.
I mean, it smacked right on the numbers. Yeah. So I love math. But yeah, I mean, and so the life program, it was when we put it together, we kind of modeled it after what VIPs get, because you should treat your life members like VIPs, unlike the other organization.
Yeah.
Lest I say that. Now.
All right. We got other co-hosts here. Ben, Scott, what do you want to, anything you want to comment on based on what Tom was talking about, or questions?
Tom, I'll send you a check for my life membership.
That's perfect. Send it to the I.B.M.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things where every time I hear about it and I see the numbers, I'm like, why haven't I done that? And now it's public, and this is going to be out. And so now when I see someone, they're going to be like, so you're a life member, and now I have to be able to say yes.
So that's 1 out of 3. I only got 2 more to go on this call.
I unfortunately already put the down payment on the TV. So yeah.
He's a little one behind you, Ben. You could use it. I see that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, if you can't sit 2 feet away from your television and not see anything but television in your peripheral vision, it's just not big enough.
That was my thinking too.
All right, let me take a quick break and tell you that this podcast is brought to you by the International Brotherhood of Magicians, and we are the largest magic organization with members in over 88 countries. if you love magic, if you love the art of magic, if you'd love to do magic, not sorcery, not witchcraft, but the art of entertainment magic, nobody's going to be bringing back anybody from the dead in our organization. It is solely for fun and amazement. But if you want to be fun and if you want to amaze your family, your friends, and all the folks around, you can go to ibmmagic.com. That is ibmmagic.com, where there are 3 free card magic tricks from Luis Carrion. Luis Carrion is known as La Bestia. La Bestia. He's based out of Chicago. Performs a lot at the Chicago Magic Lounge, and he was so kind as to donate to us 3 fantastic pieces of card magic. All you have to do is go to ibmmagic.com and put in your email address, and you will be able to do magic too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Tell me about so you're now in it's St. Pete, right? St. Petersburg.
Yeah, St. Pete's about 25, 30 miles south of Tampa, and it's about 25, 30 miles above Sarasota. So I belong to both Ring 81 in Sarasota and Ring 175 in Tampa. I just became the president again for Ring 175, and I'm the secretary for Ring 81. So
Well, I want to get to that in a second, but we have a program in the IBM called the Ambassadors of Magic program, and the Ambassadors of Magic program is designed to highlight magic clubs, magic. Not when I say club, I don't mean like a ring. I'm talking about like Chicago Magic Lounge or House of Cards or something like that, a restaurant or a club that features magic, and also venues. And you have a show down there called the Zubrick Magic Theater, and they are one of our ambassadors of magic, and they were recently written up in the Linking Ring. There was an article done about them. And while I have met the Zubricks, I met them when I was on a trip, and I went to Guam, and I got to meet the Zubricks there. And so they were super hospitable to me and the folks that were with me. But I haven't been to their magic theater. You want to tell us about it? I've seen some cool
it's
things.
fantastic. So
Isn't it unbelievable?
yeah, I mean, when you go to the Winter Carnival in March, I'm hoping Terry Evans was around him. I have not talked to him whether he's going to have the show up and running that first weekend or not. But Terry worked with the Zubricks and basically took a lot of ideas and concepts from how they built a theater in basically a office building is what they did. And so Terry converted a storefront into a theater. And from everything I've heard, it's phenomenal. I'm looking forward to seeing it. His house is worth your trip to Pigeon Forge to start with. But anyway, if you're a magician. But yeah, so they came in, went around the country because, COVID hit. They were in Guam and Saipan, had been for 13 years. And all of a sudden, poof, they were without a job. So they managed to get their magic and themselves and their son back to the States. And then they went from city to city for a while, looking for the perfect place to have a magic theater. And so that's how they got started with the Zubrick Theater. And I guess it's 3.5 years now. Their Christmas show, I told them it's the best I've seen them do. And it just so tight and a great show. And magic.
But it seems like under 100
They're
people,
doing major
right?
illusions and they're 6-7 feet away from the front row.
I think that's what blew my mind. I was looking online. I've seen a bunch of different photographs. What is it? How many does it seat? 100?
90.
It seats less than 100 people, and they are doing
Wow.
giant stage illusions, like the type of stuff that you see in an auditorium that is 1,000 plus.
Mhm.
They're doing it. What did you say? 6 feet away from the front row?
I mean, when they when they open and cut the girl in ninths, eighths, sevenths, whatever, it's ninths, I think. It's a lot of pieces. But anyway, when they chop her up and then spin that box around, I mean, that box isn't more than 4 or 5 feet away from an outstretched arm.
Wow.
And the audience is just blown away. They had no idea what to expect. This is not what they were expecting in St. Pete. And it's a hoot. They just won a big award from the city because they had put a advertising piece, which was half of the half of the body where the feet are sticking out of a sawed in half. And so they have it up on top of the luggage carousel, and it says,
Oh, yeah.
make sure your luggage is yours. A lot of bags look familiar or similar. And it nuts me up every time I see it. And so they're very active with the community. They're they do all the festivals and stuff, and they're sold out all the time.
The show that I saw in Guam was extraordinary.
Well,
It
but
was
it would be totally different. In Guam, they had 10 assistants and they never opened their mouth.
no. I
Yeah.
agree with you. But what I'm saying is, I haven't been to the Zubrik Magic Theater,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I have seen them, and
Mhm.
they do an excellent show.
Oh yeah, they're great showmen. They're wonderful people. Period. Yeah, they got hit by one of the hurricanes. The first one brought in 3 feet of water into their house, and so
Oh no.
the last 4 months have been very, very difficult on them. They just got back in their house. It's not perfect, but they're at least back in their house before Christmas. So,
But they are doing shows right now, right?
oh yeah, they kept doing shows.
And,
The show
what are
must
they?
go
Is it a couple times a week?
well, it's usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's usually just towards the weekend right now. But yeah, Jason Hootie introduced me to them while they were building, and we
Hmm.
became fast friends. I write some of their scripts now, help them with some of their blocking and stuff.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean,
But-
you've seen so much magic. You would have it's good to have an outside eye when
Yeah.
you're the one standing on stage. You don't necessarily know what it looks like from the audience's point of view. So I'm sure that they
Well,
really
I mean,
appreciate
Jason,
having you
that's
there.
the number one reason I give for magic clubs is we practice and practice until what we do looks invisible. So the only other person that can appreciate it is another magician. And they're the only one that can help you. Because if you look at an audience and say, how'd that look? Oh, I have no idea how you did that. No, that's not really what we're looking for,
Right,
And so
right.
I think that's why, everything else can go away and Zoom can be king and everything else. But boy, meeting other magicians in person and being able to just session with them, I just think is critical. So,
Yeah. And if somebody wants to go to the Zubrik Magic Theater in St. Petersburg, all they have to do is check out www. I probably don't need to do that, dude. I mean, people know that's not
oh,
a
you're
thing
showing your
anymore.
age. You're showing your age. Look at the
Yup.
whippersnappers laughing. They're laughing
Ben,
at you.
Ben,
What an old man you are.
yeah. So if you just type in zubrickmagic.com, you'll find your way there. Zubrik, Zubrick magic.com.
And if
And you
you're
can
over 55, go ahead and type www. What the heck? No one's going to stop you.
That's right. Absolutely. So I watched you move down to St. Petersburg area, and I watched you take some clubs and like triple their membership. How the heck did you do that, Tom? And then you also established a Magic Day. So you not only do you have the Winter Carnival of Magic that you do every year at the in Pigeon Forge, but then you like, oh, I know what I'll do. I've got enough time. Let's triple a couple of different Magic clubs in Florida and create a Magic Day.
Well, Jason,
How do you
it's
do
really,
this?
you've asked me this question privately before. I mean, it's not that hard. If your club is being run by a bunch of old men who sit on their haunches the entire time and talk about just their ring and string routine, and if you do one, they tell you why theirs is better, that club's not going to last long. And I say that out of personal experience, having watched that happen. People want to come out, but we all like to be entertained. We all are curious about magic. We all want to see whatever happens to be new or what somebody's worked on. So there's the easy part. I mean, we all have the same desire. I don't know a single magician who goes, nope, I've seen it all. I don't want to see anything else. They like to see it. So your club just has to be able to provide that a venue where the meetings are something a little bit more novel, not cup and ball night, because maybe everybody doesn't do cups and balls, and if there's one person that's really good in your ring who's won awards for their cups and balls, even if they had to look like an Englishman on the side of the road, they may be
I feel like a
intimidated
personal
to do
slight
their cups and balls.
is being offered up against me.
What's that?
A personal, you're taking shots at me,
I
baby.
was not taking shots. I'm just saying that would intimidate me if I was in your club. I wouldn't want to do
Okay.
cups and balls. I'll let you do cups and balls. I'll do something else with a cup and a ball, or a ball, or maybe a cup, but maybe not the three of them together.
Or
Because,
just anything that when you look like you're on the side of a road, apparently. As
well, I
long
mean,
as
a
you're
lot
on the
of
side.
magicians are intimidated to perform at a magic club
Yeah.
until they see who else
Mhm.
is performing at a magic club.
That's a very good
And then they
point.
go, oh, I could do that. And so as long as you invite everybody to perform, in fact, the rings I'm in, we have contests to try and get 100% participation.
That's awesome.
And when John Hopper was still alive, we went 18 months, I think, while he was president, of perfect 100% participation.
Are you serious?
Mhm. Yeah.
It-
Wow.
Tom, didn't that start when I was still in Ring 58? Because I remember when I was the program chairman, you and I had talks about getting more people involved, and we started having themes that were more broad. So instead of doing cups and balls, the theme would be magic with things that are green,
Yep.
and it like left things open to interpretation, and it encouraged people. And then we also added like open mic or works in progress or something. There was another section for just
Yeah, I
free
forgot
for
that
all,
that's when
doesn't need to follow
well,
the theme.
we had a board member who came up to us because Ring 58 still does the old way, where we have president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. We still have sergeant at arms, and we have a body of 4 board of directors that report to the vice president that should be directing all the activities. So one of the board members comes up to us midway through the year and he goes, I'm going to quit. And I go, what? What do you mean you're going to quit? And he goes, it's just, I don't get stuff. Da, 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 da. And he started telling me, I go, okay. And so we called an emergency meeting of the board and got all the officers and the board members in, and we redesigned um, the format for our meeting. And we came up with a 5-step approach to performances. So not just having themed performances. This was written up in, I think I submitted in 2017. It's in the linking ring. Um, but
And the
uh,
Linking Ring is the magazine of the International Brotherhood of Magicians, in case you're new to this podcast.
yeah, you're gonna have to do
And
that.
they're a
Because once
sponsor of the
I get
podcast.
wound up, Jason, I just keep going. So yeah, so you got your theme performances, and then we had works in progress, which was a way to tell the club, I'd like your input, because sometimes people do stuff they don't want your input. But if as long as you say it's a work in progress, then we know that we want to talk about it. And it's not unusual to spend 15, 20 minutes after somebody does a trick under works in progress, that they do that. Teach a trick because somebody said, well, I come to the meeting and I don't learn anything. And I was like, wow, never even thought about that. And so we have teach a trick segment, we have an open mic segment, and then we have show and tell. One of my favorite show and tell that happened early on is a gentleman brought in all of his magic themed Christmas ornaments. And if
Hmm.
you aren't aware of how many Christmas ornaments are possible, you should probably have a show and tell feature at your thing and ask somebody, hey, if anybody's got enough Christmas ornaments to brag about, bring them in. Because I mean, the man brought in like 30. And I was like, that's enough for half of my tree. So it was really cool. But yeah, and so now everybody can do something. If they read a book and they want to tell us about whether the book was good or bad, or whether they agree with the review that was written in one of the magazines or whatever, they can, or they can perform. So there's a lot of ways they can perform. But yeah, I forgot that you were still there, Ben, when that happened. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was an
Well, and
eye-opening thing that we just took, I mean, a
yeah.
lemon and tried to make
And
lemonade out of.
and it's a really great change of like perspective. It's not 100% performance where everyone who attended performed, it's participation.
Yes.
So everyone gets up and shares something, and they're part of it. They're not just sitting and watching, and that's a huge distinction.
Yep.
It's
And
more fun.
I'm
It's more fun
brash
to have
enough.
variety.
I'm brash enough that I just look at people and go, okay, if you can't do something, you may want to consider a karate club or something, or maybe checkers. Magic might not be your thing. And
Yeah.
so it's reverse psychology, something like that. I don't know what it is. You have the psychology degree.
Light bullying.
Wait, light bullying, is that the official term?
Light
Is that what you
bullying.
learned in,
Yeah.
is what you learned 4 years at UT, and that's what you got, light bullying? Perfect, great,
That's
thanks.
right. Yeah,
You know,
that's the technical term.
I
you know, it
didn't,
does.
I didn't know that. I was counting on you. I was thinking you might have a case study or something you could tell me about. No.
Nope, you
No,
are
it-
the case study.
What is interesting about what you're talking about, though, is that for those of you listening who might be new to the International Brotherhood of Magician, or maybe you just interested in magic as a hobby, and um, folks who love magic, especially people who go to magic clubs, um, are pretty good about sharing. You know, if you're not really super familiar with the magic community, you might think to yourself, well, how do you learn magic? Because magicians won't share their tricks with you. But the simple fact of the matter is that these magic clubs, just showing up to the magic club, just literally attending the magic club, shows enough interest from you that you have taken a few steps to show that you're interested in magic, so that someone in that room is more than happy to start teaching you some magic tricks, even if it's just you don't own any magic books, you've never attended a magic convention, you don't even know that there's such a thing as magic shops. You can go to a magic club and you can start learning magic direct from somebody who may have been doing it for 10 or 20 or 50 years, which is the best way, in my opinion, to learn magic, directly from somebody else.
Right,
Yeah.
and expand that, Jason, even if you only have 15 people at the ring meeting, you've probably got well over 250 years worth of experience sitting in that room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's pretty unbelievable. The magic community is a very inclusive group where if you genuinely show interest, they will reward you for that.
Well, and
So go
speaking,
ahead.
yeah, just to jump in with a quick story related to Ring 58. Speaking of firsthand experience, I mean, I remember my first early ring meetings at 58, Tom, and you were there, Bob Carnegie, Mike Messing, Mike Stratman, the whole group. And we were talking about intimidation earlier. And being 16, 17 years old and a relative newbie, I've been playing around with magic, but not formally with people who know magic. And so I was intimidated, but only for like the first 10 minutes. And then you started jabbing me and playing and joking, and the new kid and Mike Messing came on, and that dynamic, that group, made me incredibly comfortable. And so, for those of you who may be listening to this who are part of a ring and active with your ring, great, keep it up. And let's let Tom be a model for what we need to be doing to growing that ring. On the flip side, if you're interested in magic, whether you're an I.B.M member or not, specifically if you are an I.B.M member, but if you're not, still find a ring, find a magic club. It is a unique experience to be able, it is the closest thing to Hogwarts that we have in real life. It is that.
That's
And
great.
the experience of hanging out with other magicians is unique. And the thing I am constantly amazed at, I was amazed in the early days of Ring 58, and I consistently am amazed when I go to other conventions like the I.B.M National Convention, how inclusive, to use your word, Jason, the community is. It is a tight community. The people that you've seen on TV or read about in books are in front of you, and you can go talk to them, and they will help you. They will session with you. They'll jam with you. They'll teach you something. I had dinner with Michael M.R. at the last I.B.M convention, and he couldn't be more hospitable. I mean, this is a guy that I've idolized as a magician since I was a kid and practiced dozens of his tricks. And here he is talking to the kid next to him at the dinner, showing him stuff. And it's a surreal type of experience. So magic, Zoom is fine for what it is. YouTube is fine for what it is. Books are great. I'm sitting in front of a big shelf full of magic books, but there's no substitute for that personal time and meeting with a group of fellow magicians and having that experience.
I'm glad you said that, because I've heard the opposite from younger people, that they would rather, I know people, and you know the same people, so I'll leave their name out of it, that will go on LinkedIn or go on Facebook Messenger and literally just send a message to magician X. Could be somebody from Spain is one I'm
Yeah.
thinking of. Could be somebody here in the United States that they would love to be able to chat with. And it's like fishing, will
Yeah.
they respond to me? And I'm like, wow, well, they're also going to be at the I.B.M convention this year. Why are you not going? And, to me, there's no parallel to having personal time with somebody. And
100%.
as I even wrote about this one time, I said, I can almost guarantee you, if you go up to somebody and say, hey, can I buy you lunch? Nobody will say no. No, nobody. I don't know a single person that will say, now I got lunch plans. Well, tomorrow. Okay,
Right.
tomorrow sounds good.
Yep.
If you ask them at 11 o'clock, you might be out of luck for them, but don't take that as a no. That's just a temporary no. I don't, because a lot of my biggest times in Magic are times I went backstage at Lance Burton, or
Right.
I got to have lunch with Mr. Electric and Mike Caveney at the same time, when I was at Magic Live. I mean, there's just certain things, and that list is huge. I could just go on and on and on about people that I've been able to rub elbows with. That's unlike any other craft,
Yes, it
Even
is
the way-
unlike anything
Even the way
else.
David Copperfield's letting like the Collectors Expo go into his collection. He's opening it up because, well, a collection that just sits in your own closet is nothing more than a closet. So he wants to open up his collection and let people enjoy it, talk about it, and be mesmerized. I mean, I'm Jason, you've been there. I mean, I imagine
Oh,
you're
it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, the
so
Magic community opens, the doors open.
but you're not going to get to go if you
fortune.
send David Copperfield a note and say, I'd like to see your museum.
No, you don't. Yeah, no. The reason that I was invited to the to David Copperfield's museum was because I was on the executive committee of the
Right.
International Brotherhood of Magicians, and so that door opened up for me. Um, with that said, talking about community and talking about showing up in person, let's real quickly, because we're coming to the end of this podcast, but let's real quickly talk about a couple of additional people who are going to be at the I.B.M convention this summer. The I.B.M's, much like the Winter Carnival of Magic, the International Brotherhood of Magicians has their own annual convention, and this year it's being held in Houston in July. You can learn more about it at ibmconvention.com. That is ibmconvention.com. Last podcast, we announced Joan Ducour, John Allen, Mervant Vera, and Zabrecki are all going to be there. I've got some more names. Justin Purcell, who apparently is a big improv guy, performs at the Chicago Magic Lounge, has been involved in I.O. and Second City. He's going to be there. Rachel Ling Gordon, who, you know what? Let me pull up this info. This is a very interesting. Some more information about Rachel Ling Gordon. She was diagnosed with selective mutism at the age of 2.5 and couldn't speak or struggled to speak in public, but she had a passion for performing, and she made history as the youngest magician ever in all 10 seasons of Penn and Teller Foolish. She was on an episode titled The Youngest Act in Foolish History.
Wow.
She let me scroll. Yeah, check this out. She's in addition to being a magician, she's a versatile artist. She played the lead role of Cindy Lou in Cindy Lou Who in the Broadway national tour of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So this is a young up and coming magic star who has quite a story. And so Rachel Lynn Gordon's going to be at the I.B.M convention. Nicole Cardoza will be there, and also Dan Sperry. Ooh, Dan Sperry.
I think that's and Jason, real quick, that is one of the hardest things to do when you're putting together a convention, is to be able to, you got to bring enough names that it gets people so they go, ooh, that sounds good. Names they recognize.
Like
But you
Dan
also
Sperry. Yep.
owe it to the magic community to introduce people they've maybe not seen.
Right.
So being a Midwest convention and knowing they hadn't seen David Da Vinci, is one of the reasons I wanted to hire David Da Vinci. I typically try and get some people from the West Coast because a lot of the attendees at our convention go to one convention a year, and it's the Winter Carnival. So, but yeah, I love it that the I.B.M has people that are coming that you may not have heard of. And that certainly should never stop people from coming, because usually the talent guy knows what he's doing. So,
So
just
that
trust that
that
it's something interesting. There's never anything at these international conventions that isn't unbelievable. So
I agree. So the information about that is at ibmconvention.com. As we wrap up, Tom, how do I find out more information about the Winter Carnival of Magic? If I want to come to the Winter Carnival of Magic at the beginning of March, how do I do that?
Winter Carnival of Magic.com is the easiest way. We still have to have you call Monday through Friday to the theater.
But all that information is on the website, right?
Make you that reservation. Yeah. I mean, I don't see that there's a need to tell you the phone number for that. But we've got some hotels on there as well, phone numbers. And but yeah, Monday through Friday, like 9 to 5, you can make your reservations right now. $249 for you, $119 for any non-magician or spouse that comes with you. So
that is one of the best deals in Magic, I'll tell you right now, especially for your massive talent list that you have, and that is quite an impressive list.
It's been fun. There's only been, I guess, 4 talent chairmen. There was one guy that did it for the first couple years, and they said until he hired himself, and so then that went away. And George Kimmery did it for many years until he started getting pressure from people he sold illusions to and said, "Hey, George, I got this, this, and this. Why don't you put me on the Winter Carnival?" So that's when Mike Stratman took over. And then Mike said, "Okay, you're going to a lot more conventions I go to. Why don't you go ahead and take over hiring the talent?" I said, "With pleasure." So it's been fun. So I think that's been 11 years or so. But I love the convention together.
Well, Tom, I just want to thank you for all the work that you've done on behalf of the International Brotherhood of Magicians, both on the local level as well as the international level. You have shown an incredible commitment to growing the magic community. And so thank you for that. As we wrap up,
a new life member while I was on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott's going to go sign up. Hey, you guys, when you see him in Houston, ask Scott if he's a life member, and
ask Ben how he likes his TV.
Yes.
All right, if you want to,
I got a lot of shows to catch up on.
Yeah, you do. If you want to learn more about the International Brotherhood of Magicians, check out magician.org. That is magician.org. My name is Jason Michaels. Feel free to email me with your feedback, your suggestions, or whatever you want to talk about at jasonmichaelsmagic@gmail.com. You can look me up on all the socials at Jason Michaels Magic. Ben, where do I find you?
At Ben Young Live on any of the socials.
And Scott?
At Scott Cantrell BLS on Instagram, or you can just search me on Facebook.
Tom, do you want people to look you up, or would you?
I'm just trying to figure out what BLS stands for, but that's just. That
is a whole. We're not going there during. No, we're not going there during this. That's a long story. We're not going there in this story. But hey, folks,
the whitest guy I've ever seen. So I'm thinking the first one isn't got anything to do with what I thought it did. But anyhow.
That's a great. Oh, okay. And now I'm going to get lots of emails. I appreciate it, Tom. And that's how we're going to close the International Brotherhood of Magicians.
I'm not going to give my contact. No. You can't spell Vorjohan anyhow, so they'll never find me on socials. So that's fine.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll see you next time. It's been a pleasure.
It's been fun. Thanks, guys.